Sure, it's certainly possible to become a competent musician without any systematic ear training, but why would you want to? With ear training, you'll enjoy listening to music even more than you already do, because you'll be able to hear its architecture. Do you recall how blown your mind was the first time you saw a Seurat painting up close and realized that it was composed of dots? Imagine doing that with music. In the same way that you'll better enjoy a delicious meal if you know something about cooking, and you'll better appreciate a beautiful painting if you know a little something about how it was made, you'll get more enjoyment out of music if you can properly hear what's going on. Moreover, ear training helps immensely when analyzing and transcribing other people's music, and when composing music of your own. Getting at least a little ear training is a bit of a no-brainer. The good news is that ear training is one of those things you can do in tiny incremental steps. Just a few minutes a day, several times a week, will produce noticeable results. And it can be had for free. So what is ear training? Well, I'm talking here about doing methodical drills designed to improve your ability to determine, just by listening, the relationship between a given pitch and its tonic, like this. That's a perfect fifth. And to determine the intervals between any two notes, like this. That's a minor third. And to determine the quality of a chord, like this. That's a major seventh. And to identify a given scale, like this. That's a minor scale. And to identify a given chord progression, like this. That's a 1-4-5-1 progression. Now, before you freak out and run for cover, because, who has time and money for this, let me assure you that because of software apps, this training can now be obtained for free, or very nearly so. And it's surprisingly effective even when done in small doses. So you don't need to enroll in music school or give up all your other hobbies in order to benefit from ear training. Why do I need ear training, you ask? The best reason to train your ears is so you can dissect and transcribe what you're hearing. Let's say you want to learn how to play your favorite pop song. Back when I was a little musician, not that far back, there were only two options. You could either figure it out by ear, or you could buy sheet music. But sheet music is expensive, and it very rarely sounds like the recorded version of that song you love. Today you have a third option, which is YouTube tutorials. Trouble is, many of them suck. And if you don't have a trained ear, you're not going to know which ones suck, and you're going to suck right along with them. And even among the good tutorials, many of them tease you by only teaching the song's introduction, and then putting the rest of the song behind a paywall. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a business. But wouldn't you rather be the person selling those tutorials than buying them? And wouldn't it be great not to need them at all? That's what ear training can do for you. In addition, there isn't going to be a YouTube tutorial for every song you want to learn. Back in 2014, I fell in love with a song called Knock Knock by Brunettes Shoot Blondes. Alas, no tutorials. So after learning the song by ear, I made my very first YouTube tutorial. Yay! It's really good, by the way, and as far as I know, it's still the only one that exists for that song. You're welcome, Brunettes Shoot Blondes. About a year later, I went looking for a tutorial on the MASH TV theme, Suicide is Painless. I found plenty, and they were all pretty bad. No one was teaching the introduction correctly, and if you blow the intro for that particular song, you're better off not playing it at all. You're just going to disappoint your audience. Let me show you. Step into my office. Played correctly, the intro sounds like this. But a whole lot of YouTubers were playing it like this. That's a poor substitute. And one guy was even teaching it like this. Something else I saw quite a lot of was missing the fact that the first chord is a D minor 7 and mistaking it for an F. They're in the same family, they're related. Through early morning fog I see. That's D minor 7 to G 7th, but a lot of people were playing F. Through early morning fog I see to G without the 7. Visions of the things to be. And again, you can get away with that, but with ear training, you don't have to. What really broke my heart, though, wasn't the prevalence of bad tutorials. It was the shockingly large number of positive comments they were gathering. Huge numbers of people weren't hearing the mistakes and would soon be replicating those mistakes for disappointed audiences at open mic nights all across the country. And these are musicians. Amateurs, yes, but still people with enough talent to be trying to learn their favorite song from a YouTube tutorial. Yet they couldn't hear the inaccuracies. So I made a tutorial for this song too. Ear training, people, let's get some. You know, I'm not quite done ranting yet. Follow me over to the piano. A few months ago, I went looking for tutorials for the Bruno Mars song, Runaway Baby. What I found made me sad. On the original recording, the riff I'm about to demonstrate is done on a guitar, but I'm going to show it to you on a piano because I think it'll be easier to see that way. And it's important that you see it that way because apparently not many people can hear it. Let me show you what I mean before we zoom in. Here's the main riff played correctly. Pretty awesome, huh? Well, looky here, oh, what do we have? Another pretty thing ready for me to grab. Little does she know that I'm a wolf and she's holding it at the end of the night. It is her I'll be holding. Ow! Sorry. Pretty sketchy lyrics in the Me Too era, but that's a topic for another video. FYI, the original recording is in the key of E minor, but I transposed it down to A minor because I'm not Bruno Mars, and A minor is where I can sing it. Anyway, listen closely. Here's the main riff again. I'm going to remove the grace note so you can clearly hear it. But here's how one guy is teaching it on YouTube. And here's how another guy is playing it in a cover version. If you're having trouble hearing the difference, then you're proving my point that not enough people are getting adequate ear training. Come here, look over my shoulder. When played correctly, the E, which is the fifth note of the A minor scale, is flatted on the way down, but not on the way back up. Flat, natural, flat, natural. And that's the thing that makes this riff so very, very funky. But many of the tutorials on YouTube and a good chunk of the covers don't flat the fifth at all. They play it like this. And a whole bunch of the other covers and tutorials make the reverse mistake. They flat the fifth on the way down and again on the way back up. These mistakes with Runaway Baby are common for the same reason that most people often make mistakes when they're drawing. What you know about something, or what you think you know about something, can often override the evidence of your own senses. For example, ask a bunch of random adults to draw a forest, and they'll color the whole thing one shade of green. Well, when you're a kid, you learn that leaves are green, grass is green, broccoli is green, Kermit is green, boogers are green, and so forth. If you've never taken art class, you could easily make it all the way to adulthood without realizing that when you look at a tree canopy, you're not seeing green. You're seeing greens. If you have an untrained eye, your mental image from childhood can actually override the forest that's right in front of your face. Trained painters look at the ocean and see it for all its complexities, whereas non-painters give it a casual glance and write it off as blue. It's not blue. Likewise, your mental image of a music scale can override what you're hearing. Musicians know, for instance, that scale notes don't usually change in the middle of pop songs, especially when they're near each other in sequence. So if you're listening with untrained ears, you can easily superimpose your idea of a scale on top of what you're actually hearing. And then you'll end up assuming that if a note is flatted on the way up, it's also going to be flatted going down, or vice versa. Now, I'm not casting stones here. The YouTubers whose chops I'm currently busting, they mean well, and they're putting in the work. They're missing the mark, though, and it's just because they have underdeveloped ears. Another reason I'm not casting stones is that anyone can drop the ball at times. I've caught myself making similar mistakes mistakes I wouldn't have made if I hadn't been doing a little more ear training. For example, I played Werewolves of London incorrectly for years. Here's how it's supposed to be played. That's the correct note, but for years I was jumping up to that D. So instead of playing this, I was playing this. If you find yourself shrugging right now, thinking, what's the big deal over one note? Then step forward. Come on, right now, step forward. Place your musician card right here on the piano. Then slink away in shame and never darken my door again. As long as I'm in confession mode here, let me point out that Billy Joel's Piano Man is another song that I played incorrectly for years. And this is a mistake that's so common, Billy Joel himself has complained that he hears it all the time when people cover the song. The bass line of the song just goes right down to C major scale, and it should sound like this. It's when I hit that G that I want you to pay attention, because I'm starting on the C. Here we have what's called a slash chord. This is a G with a B in the bass. Most people get that right. Then we have an A minor, and then we have a C with a G in the bass. Many, many people play that as a G chord. And this makes perfect sense, because well over 90% of the time in pop songs, the note you hear in the bass is the root note of the chord. And so when people hear that G, which is very prominent, they'll assume a G chord, and when you play it, it doesn't sound too bad. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday. The regular crowd shuffles in. You can get away with that. It's wrong, but untrained ears aren't going to catch it. But it's really a C with a G in the bass. 9 o'clock on a Saturday. The regular crowd shuffles in. It's a subtle difference to most people certainly without trained ears. It drives Billy Joel crazy, so let's stop doing that now. By the way, if you ever want to improvise, you have to get to the point where you can mindlessly play chord progressions and melody lines as you're imagining them. This is often referred to as body mapping, and it means feeling as if your instrument is an extension of your body. Even if you've never felt this with your instrument before, you've almost certainly felt it with your car or your video game controller. You've reached the point of familiarity where you've stopped thinking about which buttons and pedals to press in the same way that you don't need to think through all the steps of telling your finger how to pick your nose. It has become automated. That automation is the dream of musicians, and a big part of getting there is ear training. A trained ear is kind of a superpower. When you're done here, watch this video by Amy Nolte. I'll put the link in the description. If your ear isn't as developed as Amy's is, what she's doing will look like magic. But it's not magic. It's a totally attainable goal. So is composing music in your head and being able to write it down on paper without an instrument in hand.
Trumpets in D, tonic and dominant, first and third beats. It goes with the harmony.
Yes, I understand. Yes. And that's all.
No, not for the real fire. Strings in unison, ostinato on A, like this. Next measure's rising. You have it?
Yes,
Show
I think
me.
so.
Now that's some next level shit right there. But it's a skill like any other skill. Put in the time, put in deliberate practice, and it can be yours. So how do you get ear training? Well, back when I was in music school, there were no smartphones, no mobile devices, no internet, no electricity. To do ear training back then, you needed a really good friend, preferably someone with no social life, like a fellow music major, someone who had nothing better to do than to sit at a piano and tap out notes and chords for you to guess at without looking.
What interval is this?
Minor sixth?
Wrong!
But thankfully, there are now a bunch of apps that let your phone or tablet stand in for your loser friend. Apps have unlimited patience and are available whenever you are. They also do a much better job of tracking your progress and providing feedback than you'd get if you were running through exercises with a friend at the piano. The first one that I'm going to show you is a must-have app called Functional Ear Trainer. Unlike most of the other ear training apps that are available, this one teaches only one skill, but it's a critical foundational skill, and this trainer teaches it really well. It trains you how to identify any given note in relation to its tonic, also known as the root of the scale. Let me show you what I mean on the piano, and then I'll show you how it works on the app. So Functional Ear Trainer works like this. It gives you a series of 20 questions. Each question begins with a 1-4-5-1 cadence to tell your ear what key you're in. Then it plays a note. And your mission is to figure out what that note is in relation to its nearest tonic. Here's its nearest tonic. There's another tonic down here. You make your guess, and then it plays you the answer with the passing notes between it and the tonic. Then it goes on to the next question with a cadence. Another note, and you try to guess, and then it plays the answer. That's the closest tonic, so it goes to that one. And that's the secret sauce right there. Playing those passing notes is what's training your ear to hear the distance between the note and the nearest tonic. So when you hear another question, in your mind's ear, you hear the passing notes. La, 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 la. And you know what note you're on. Let's take a look at the app. So here we are in the mighty Functional Ear Trainer app. You can pop in here if you want to read up on the app itself and the theory behind it. You can pop in here and create some exercises of your own. But let's start here where you get drilled on intervals. The exercises are grouped into 4 broad categories: major scales with chromatics, minor scales, and minor scales with chromatics. Let's go into the major scales category. The exercises within each category are grouped into sets, each one building on skills developed in the previous sets. As Julie Andrews would say, let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. So there's our cadence to create a tonal context. Now we have to say which note we think was played after the cadence. Mi, re, do. Do. Fa, mi, re, do. Knowing a little solfege can help you here, but it's not at all necessary. You remember solfege, don't you? Julie taught it to us when we were kids. Let me respond incorrectly now. So it tells me I'm wrong, gives me another shot. Down here it's keeping track of my win-loss record. So far I've gotten 3 right and 1 wrong. And over here it's telling me that I'm on my 5th question out of 20. If you happen to distract yourself while, say, making a video or daydreaming about Julie Andrews, you can replay the question and continue. The 20 exercises in this first set only deal with the lower half of the major scale, and it doesn't include any chromatics. If this were a C major scale on a piano keyboard, the top 4 notes, G, A, B, and C, are grayed out and inactive, and the black keys are missing altogether. They'll appear in later exercises. The next set deals only with the upper 4 notes of the C major scale, and as you probably guessed, the set after that puts the 2 halves together. The remaining sets increase the challenge by sometimes playing notes that are above or below the displayed octave, and additional sets go into major scales other than C. When these get too easy, it's time to move into the next category, which adds chromatics to the major scale. You'll see that these exercise sets are organized exactly like the sets in the previous category, beginning with half scales, working up to full scales, and then adding in scales other than C major, and notes from outside the displayed octave. Let's jump into the deep end. Once you've been through each set a certain number of times, the app has enough information to start reporting out on your progress. This tab here takes you to a graph of boneheaded answers versus correct ones. As you can see, I had a nice streak going, then I got boneheaded, and now I'm sort of leveling out. This page uses traffic light colors to show me where most of my mistakes are occurring. Green keys indicate a high percentage of accuracy. Yellow and red, not so much. So the button representing the minor 6 is telling me where to concentrate my efforts. I've only gotten that note right on 83% of my attempts. I can even access more granular info by holding down that key. This shows me that when I should be selecting the minor 6th, I'm choosing the augmented 4th 50% of the time, and I'm choosing the minor 2nd 50% of the time. So this app not only tells me which notes I'm getting wrong, it's telling me which other notes are misleading me. If I back all the way out to the home page, you'll see that there are still 2 whole categories I haven't even touched yet. One on the minor scale without chromatics and one with. There's clearly a lot of wealth to be mined here. In short, this is a fantastic app, and at $0, you'd be a fool not to use it. This is Complete Ear Trainer. Because I'm experimenting with the free version, most of this app's features aren't available to me. If we enter the easy mode section, for instance, we find that most of it is grayed out. And that's true for each section. Let's drop in here and look at some of the specific challenges. So it starts off very easy. It's going to play tones, and I'm supposed to tell if they're octaves or minor thirds. Then it does the same thing with octaves and major thirds. Then it challenges me with octaves, major thirds, and minor thirds. One thing I like about this app is that it locks you out of higher level challenges until you've achieved at least a modest degree of competence with lower levels. One thing I dislike about the app is that all the challenges appear to be timed. I certainly appreciate the value of gamifying instruction and review, but I'm not sure that speed is the best method for doing so in this particular case. At the very least, I'd like to have the option to shut off the clock. Maybe that option's available in the paid version. At the end of each session, you get sent to a stats page with a bunch of numbers that don't mean anything to me. They've got some convoluted scoring system based on your correct answer ratio and your response time. I pay no attention to it. And here's where you might get a sense of why I'm not thrilled with the timed challenges. As you can see, my average response time is already less than a second. So at this point, if I wanted to improve on that, I'd probably see better results if I trained myself physically to tap the screen faster than I would if I worked on mentally processing the correct answers. That said, the benefits of this app greatly outweigh my one gripe. Here in what they're calling classic mode, you can see that again, a bunch of it is grayed out, but it continues. Very similar challenges to the ones I just showed you. Interval recognition, this time with fourths and fifths and octaves. And so on. This one's a little more advanced in that the tones are played together, not in sequence. Backing out to the home page again, and now we go into arcade mode, which is entirely grayed out except for this one challenge, which looks pretty intimidating. This last section of the app allows you to create customized drills, which, while a generous feature, is probably unnecessary. From what I can tell, the app's developer has already included every challenge you could ever want in an ear trainer. Last time I checked, this app only cost $3 or $4, so there's a good chance I'll buy it eventually. But I'm also considering another app called Earbeater. Let's take a look at that one. This is Earbeater Lite, the free version of the app. Most of the features, however, are available in the free version. I think the full version costs $7 or $8, so it's a little pricey as ear trainers go. At the same time, though, it's very thorough. All the challenges under this first tab require you to do the same thing. Pick the larger of two intervals. The only thing that changes from one set of challenges to the next is the type of interval you're being quizzed on. It starts out with unisons and octaves, progresses to things like major seconds and minor sevenths. Notice how very little of it is grayed out in the free version. Let's drop in for a quick demo on one of these exercises. A is the first pair of notes, B is the second pair of notes, and I have to pick which one's bigger. Now I'm going to get one wrong on purpose. Let me pause to show you how much information I'm getting here. First, it's showing me the correct answer in musical notation and the incorrect answer, also in musical notation. Then down here, it illustrates the same information on a piano keyboard. And down here, there are 20 little nodes. They light up green for correct answers and orange for incorrect answers. As long as I continue to get answers right, it forwards automatically. When I get an answer wrong, it pauses, lets me examine the information, and then I can resume. Off I go. The challenges under the second tab are very similar to the ones I showed you in the previous app, Complete Ear Trainer. The app plays 2 notes, and you have to name the interval. As you can see, it's multiple choice. The possible answers are down here at the bottom. And it forwards automatically when I get them right. But if I get one wrong, it pauses so I can examine what I did wrong. Just like in the previous exercises, it's showing me my win-loss record down here out of 20, and it's showing me the correct answers, incorrect answers, both in music notation and on a keyboard. The third tab is chord identification, and it starts out with major and minor triads. Then it progresses to augmented to diminished triads, and it graduates to stuff like minor 7 flat fifths. The fourth tab is even more insane. It teaches you how to tell one chord inversion from another. That's a skill I can't imagine myself ever needing, but hey, whatever blows your hair back. And the last tab teaches you how to recognize different scales. Oddly, it skips right over the major and minor scales and goes straight to the pentatonics. It's going to be a while before I get to this tab. Like the other 2 apps I showed you, Earbeater allows you to create your own exercises, so you could probably add major and minor scales if you wanted to. That feature is not available in the free version though. So here's to ear training. It's not just for music majors anymore. Hey, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button before you go. You'll be a better person for it. See you next time.
Wrong! No! Wrong! 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 This isn't cooperating.
Okay, well, choke up on it. Yeah, you know you're...